up? This is Church, and you're tuned into Student of the Game. I guess it's an interview series. I never know how to say this, but this is Student of the Game, an interview series where we talk to creatives and try to learn a thing or two. This week, our guest is none other than Lucky Lance, award-winning artist, the brains behind Sky Pirates, CA's finest. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, I got my questions ready. I'm properly. I feel good about this.
All right, me too.
I wanted to start by taking it to the beginning, and going back to yourself as a young person. What were some of the key factors that drove you to pursue a creative pathway?
I think for me, it was learning pretty fast that I didn't enjoy working for someone else. And I figured out quite fast that, all the money kicks up to the boss.
Right.
And I was like, I was always in and out of, pretty much got straight into the creative route, but, obviously had a few dead-end jobs and stuff first, which was usually around driving roles and courier jobs, so I could at least be out on the road listening to music and not actually in the factory,
right,
or whatever. I was always on the road, but I think that was that was the main driver, is wanting to be your own boss and not answer to anyone else. And so and then heard the quote, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so just figured out, what do I love? Music. And then that was pretty much the start.
It's cool because you were so confident from a very young age and almost immediately went towards the creativity. There is, however, kind of cultural backgrounds and traditional and societal roles that play at the counter. Did you at all feel that sort of thing affecting you?
For some reason it was I have no one musical, didn't have anyone, even to be that looks cool or whatever. Actually, I guess, I never had anyone in my family, but the trio that I was with, you're my two best friends growing up. One was Patrick, this Niuean fella, and Donnie Tongan fella, but their older brothers and cousins all had turntables and mixtapes, and so that would always filter down to them and then to us. And not thinking about making music at all. It was always just we loved music, we'll stay up, recording cassette tapes, my FM cassette tapes, and that kind of stuff, and mixing. It was a game to see if you can guess the next track that's being mixed in before it drops, and those are some of my earliest memories of music, but there was no, that was just the love for the music, that extreme, that was I guess, just a natural progression from now.
So fast forward to today, Sky Pirates opened a flagship store in Morningside, and are going on, over a decade strong. And for me, what's always really interesting about creativity is how you can bring an imagined idea, something in your head, into something tangible in the real world. For you, what are the key difference makers in making that happen?
I think it's persistence, and the belief. I was talking to someone earlier, as an entrepreneur and as an artist, I believe the main, asset you can have is the belief in yourself. And that's gonna, if you have more belief than self-doubt, then you're usually gonna override, the naysayers or the thought of it failing and stuff like that. And so that belief will help you just to create and release whatever it is. And so I don't know, I think I don't really overthink a lot of stuff when it comes to the creativity and stuff like that, because as you know, you just do it, especially with Sky Pirates. thinking back on it now, I didn't even think about it. I just did it because it was in. It started because, you know, we would receive care packages from local brands and stuff, but nothing was ever 4XL,
Right.
so nothing would fit me. So it would all go to Tony T's and Has Beats. And I was like, well, who's going to sponsor me, you know? And I was like, I'll sponsor my damn self then, you know? And so I was like, just took a line from one of our songs, Sky Pirates, you know, and it was like, the sky is your dream to pirates to take without asking, which I thought was, you know, fitting, seeing as we're trying to encourage the kids to do what we do and pursue our dreams. And then, you know, you just make it happen, as in, well, think of my, you know, best contact who's an artist, and then I got the logo done, took it to the other bro who's a sign writer, he put the font underneath it, and then I have a logo, and then the hard work begins, you know, and it's just we did it like just trial and error, like especially for us, it's just trial and error and just learning the hard way, taught ourselves literally everything. But I mean, like, even trying to, you know, went through that phase of, oh, we'll even screen print our own t-shirts and do all this stuff, and quickly learned, we'll leave that to the front. I think I will stick to, you know, just the design and whatnot. And so, you know, we're just going around with like cheap t-shirts with one design on it, and that's how it started. But you know, if you look at it then and there, it's really nothing. You know, it's nothing in the sense of like what it is today. But if you're thinking too much about it, like if you're not passionate and you're not like, yay, my one crappy t-shirt with a design, then, you know, like, then that's when all that self-doubt and, oh, was it really worth it? But that's what I mean. We didn't think. It was like, we were happy with our one crappy t-shirt and
following the momentum,
and it wasn't even, it was just able to assess kind of where we were and what we were doing, and that was making music and being on stage. And I was like, well, I've got our marketing right here, like, and then I get Tony and Hans like, take those ones off, we're wearing this, you know, now on. And then you know, with YGB and stuff, I was like, boys, like, this is the new brand. And then just, I guess it wasn't like pouring ourselves into it at all. It just was like the side hustle that has now grown into, like, you know, making more money off the Sky Pirates than the music at the moment.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned YGB, and in your career as a musician, you always surrounded yourself around like-minded people. For you, what were the benefits of working in amongst a team?
I think definitely, because, you know, I'm thinking about it now as we're working on this other project for kids in similar situations like emerging artists. But luckily for us, as the Young Gifted and Broke Collective, we had like photographers, graphic designers, visual artists, musicians, filmmakers, and so we had enough in our little circle to produce a package, produce a product, and then, you know, and then with self-marketing you can shop it out. But had we just been Team Dynamite and no one else, then we would have just, you know, it wouldn't have been the same, because we would have never, we would have only been the music. But with the help of, you know, the close circle and friends and just naturally networking, you know, it wasn't like, oh, we need this and that. It just was there when it was time to do it, you know.
So kind of making networks between people that you already knew or that you were cool with, and then using their sort of talents as well.
Well, 100%. Like, so even like will come and photograph the gigs, and you'll just be friendly with them after a while, and then you'll be like, oh, you know, we're in this magazine or something, and we need a press shot or we need a photo for that, so we holler at them, and then that's your connect now every time you need photos done. And sometimes, usually, they'll do video as well, and so, you know, those are the same people. But it's not like we intentionally are out there networking. It just happens naturally because of, you know, I think if you, like, it is important, because I used to watch all those every rap DVD that was
Right.
ever out there, I was on it, you know, and that's one of the things I took really from those was how important the networking is. But you also, you have to be like a good person, I think, like, and a friendly, you know, and like no one wants to network with you if you're, you know, a dick or whatever, and that is also one of the early lessons I learnt was, you know, especially in New Zealand, you know, bad news travels faster than good news, and so if you're a dickhead to the bar staff or something at a gig, that can travel quite fast and affect your, you know, your next opportunities for shows and stuff. So that networking, yeah, it just happened.
I watched the mini documentary for Respect the Process, the album that Team Dynamite dropped in 2020.
Yep.
And in that you allude to the kind of associations that you made with music and the lifestyles that you saw and your kind of perception of it as a young person. What were your initial expectations of a rapper and the lifestyle versus the life that you live today?
Yeah, I think definitely as a young person, I thought I had to live that like rock and roll lifestyle, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll style, like approach to life was going to give me the content that I needed to create, and you know, right down to even, you know, I would used to like smoke heaps of weed and just think of like, you know, Bob Marley used to do that, like, you know, and so you see people do things and you're like, oh, must be how it's done. But you know, like I said earlier, there was no one there at all to kind of guide us and stuff, and so that approach, luckily I figured out that, you know, that's really not the approach you want to be taking, but had to learn the hard way. And even that, you know, stage of my life and that we mentioned in that doco and stuff, that was kind of like the pinnacle of it. But then as you kind of grow up and mature a bit, you realize that, you know, all those stories and all that creativity, it's already, you know, you're already tapped into that. And it's actually, if you look after your body a little bit better and you look after yourself, then you're going to have a you know, more clarity around your art and stuff, and you'll find there's just as many subjects, you know, and topics when you are looking after yourself that you can, you know, write about and stuff. And then so then for me it definitely that was like the training. Shout out to my bro Pablo, who pretty much saved my life, because at the same time Team Dynamite was breaking through, one of our best friends was becoming a PT, and so he's learning about health and wellness and the body, and he's looking at his best friends like pretty much
Right.
doing the opposite. And so he would pick us off like one by one, drunk at a party, and then you'll wake up like, oh shit, I shook his hand, I said I'll go to training tomorrow, you know, like,
Yeah.
and then that began that next stage of my life. And I think with that, just so much understanding, and then the content of the music changes as well, you know, and that's when I, you know, am on this kind of journey at the moment where it comes right down to, even for me, like understanding the, you know, words are spells, you know, and the vibration that you put out is, you know, is the vibration you put out, that's the frequency you're emitting to the to the universe. And so excuse me, I'm just a bit cautious of that now, and so that's why a lot of my music is the way it is. It's because, you know, that's what I want to hear, that's what I want to be put out into the world. And you know, it's changed completely from those early days where it was all about that rock and roll lifestyle, I think, and trying to just lost, you know, like, and misled and all that kind of stuff, and having to learn as a young adult, you know, in the city, and then learning the music business. And yeah, pretty grateful to have ended up here.
Speaking on the music, your most recent project with Christoph Altruento, it's called the 25th of January tape.
Yeah.
And on the intro, you explained that you wanted to call it that because that's a birth date that you share with Christoph. And you're talking to somebody on the phone and they tell you that's the worst reason to release music I've ever heard. And which is really funny because you guys did it anyway. And it was later nominated for an AMA and has received a lot of praise. So I want to know kind of how important it is to you to follow your creative intuition.
Yeah, very important, you know, but it comes with like pros and cons. And so with that release in particular, because I think, you know, it was a good project, you know, and I'm proud of it. And I reckon it could have definitely got some more traction if I had listened to that person on the phone.
Right.
You know, but I always believe you're always right where you need to be. So even if it, like, you know, there are no L's, there's just lessons kind of thing. And so, yes, it would have got more traction, but when you find out, like, Manuel Bundy and Submariner are feeling it, you're like, well, that's so good, you know, like, that's a success. And like you said, we still got nominated and stuff like that. And it just had to be done. Like, that's just, you know, that's what I think, that's the beauty of being an artist. Like, you know, you just create work and you can release it on your own terms if you want. But for the next one, I will be doing a proper release in that. But I had to get that out of my system. And I think it was just around that. So for the album before that, the Team Dynamite one, Respect the Process, that was like 6 years in between albums. So 6 years is a long time, and that was due to, you know, just the dynamics of the group and the bro having like babies and stuff like that. And you just work with him, that's fine. But then when I got asked by Christoph to make that tape in particular, was like, it was already December, you know, and our birthday was on Jan, so we had to make it and release it, you know, in like 6 weeks or something. And so I saw it as a challenge, you know, and so I said yes. And that was like everything I wrote made the album. You know, like there was no throwaways. It was just like bang, 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 and then put it out. And that's such a small. It just proved to me, yes, that last one took 6 years, but I can also do it in 6 weeks. You know, so now that's kind of, I've proved that to myself. Now I can, you know, take my time with this next one and, you know, just do it properly.
Do you often feel that strain between wanting to do things to satisfy your own creativity versus like what potentially would work best in a business sense?
Yeah, I always, like with music in particular, it's like the business is out, like it doesn't come into it, especially like what I was talking about before, because it's more of a vibration. Like I'm thinking bigger picture, like I'm thinking, you know, enlightenment almost, you know, like I want people to feel a certain way, you know, when they hear the music. And because when you get, you know, you'll have it yourself when people come up to you and they're like, hey, I love this song, help me through this certain time, or, you know, stuff like that. And I'm like, I think of those people when I write sometimes, because, you know, I might seem a bit funny to write it, but then when you know people are receiving it and, you know, it does have some impact, it kind of, it kind of manipulates the way you write in a sense sometimes. But, you know, try not to think of that too, because you're just trying to write for yourself and what you're doing. But I would say I think more about those people than I do about a business way about it.
Right.
But, you know, once it's done and written, then, you know, it's all business. And so it's kind of, I guess, finding that balance of like, you know, being able to do both and be genuinely happy across the board, you know, instead of, you know, it being lopsided. You definitely, it is a music business, and you need to quickly kind of figure that out, and what is your relationship with the music business, like for yourself, because you could be. I got friends who like make the like Christoph's a good example. You know, he's one of the most talented, makes of things, but he's you know, he doesn't really care about the music business in the sense of like all these other people trying to make reels and record them doing this and like all this kind of crazy stuff. But you know, and he's quite happy with that. And then you get people who are, you know, doing all the right, you know, social media, doing all the business, but you know, are they happy is the question, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, what about them? Like, you should be in the studio. Like, I believe you should be just working on the craft. You know, you just stay focused on your craft, keep chipping away at it. All that kind of business stuff falls into itself, just like how we did at the start. We didn't have a business plan. We just started making music, and you know how it goes. Friends and family like it, and then the circle just gets bigger and bigger. And then next minute, you're in the music business with no experience or nothing, and you're just, you know, learning as you go. And the same thing applies with the Sky Pirates and clothing, you know, learn as you go. And now I'm doing like this other workout, which is like working on the social enterprise called Launchpad, and I'm learning as I go in that realm as well, you know. And that's for me personally anyway. I like think that I learn better in the deep end anyway, you know.
Yeah. Can you break down some of that new work that you're doing with Launchpad?
So pretty much Launchpad is a social enterprise to help, you know, tailored pathways for young emerging artists. And I guess it comes back to, it's pretty much setting up studios like this, big facilities with all the decked out, you know, studios, dance studios, film and TV, visual arts, editing suites, you name it. Set it all up, give it to the kids for free so that they can repeat and develop and get their 10,000 hours in. But before they go into the facility, it's a 3-step journey, you know. Personal growth, creative growth, and professional growth. So the first journey, personal growth, is all the stuff that I'm now learning as a man, that I wish someone had given me these insights when we were breaking through and just starting. Like anything from like nutrition, holistic, you know, wellness, like looking how well you look after yourself, how do you think of yourself, like, you know, if you're truly like at peace with yourself or like love yourself, then that plus the nutrition and the way you move in the world is going to determine your, you know, quality of art and your ethic and your output and all these things. So just like all the stuff we had to kind of learn the hard way, it's like give these kids those tools and those insights and that like mentorship from whoever they, you know, aspire to be like, so that they have the belief, the self-belief, and they have the mental resilience and, you know, performance optimization. Then they do go into the studio, get the creative growth, and that, you know, that's the work. And then the last one is, you know, the professional growth. So illuminated pathways into careers of people who look like them, and you know, but a project like this is only going to work if we all come together as a community, because now I'm in the stage, I'm working with two other people, and we're, you know, the founders of it, but now I'm learning from just being in these planning sessions, you know, this whole other world of, you know, all the funding pools that are out there, public funding, venture capitalists, philanthropists, like there's so much money out there that, you know, if you look at their websites, even for like, you know, Foundation North, for example, it's like top priorities, Māori and Pacific communities, you know, and we're always doing stuff in the communities, Māori and Pacific communities, but we don't see any of this money, you know, and stuff like that. And it's just learning and mapping out that ecosystem to see where the pools sit, and then understanding what a proposal and a pitch deck really is to bring these ideas to life and access that money. And so I didn't do well at school, and so I'm even, you know, triggered by a classroom environment, you know, like just like a lot of Māori and Pacific kids are. And so it all started with me, you know, applying for CNZ. Like, that's where it all started. And I've been rejected for like 4 years. But, you know, you're persistent because you take it as a challenge. Like, well, I will not give up on this. But I also believe that I manifested a team with a complementary skill set, you know,
Yeah.
because this isn't, I have the ideas and everything else, but the admin of it and the stuff that a lot of our community always, you know, stumble on, and that's where we stop. When, you know, you go on the website and you see what an application process looks like, you're like, well, I don't know that, and that, so I'm just done. And so I believe I manifested a team with a complementary skill set who now, you know, they do all that. That's like a piece of pie to them. They can do that kind of, like, any funding application like overnight, but that will take me like 4 strenuous months, and like, you know, and so that's why, you know, now I made Sky Pirates, and then as it kind of grew, I had to tend to it because there was too much opportunity there. I was like, if I can get this working like in a nice cycle, then I'll have a passive income for me to do what I love, which is making music. And everything I've ever done since I left school has been about buying back my time so I can do what I love, making music. And it's always been about that. And so that's why I tended to Sky Pirates. And this now Launchpad has kind of come out of Sky Pirates. So because I signed the lease for this flagship store that we were talking about, and I had no business plan, no structure, like I said, learning as I go, but I have my gut instinct, you know, and I follow my gut. And so I was selling Sky Pirates online, but I needed to go direct to customer and have a physical space. And so that's when I signed the lease. I'm standing in the car park like, what am I up to with this place? And I look to my right and I see the bro there on the phone. And he's like, what are you up to? I was like, bro, it's like just asking myself the same question, you know? And he goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, I just signed this lease. I would love this place to be for community and like for young artists to exhibit their work, and I can sell the t-shirts and hoods and coffee or whatever. But just because it's in the area where I grew up, like I grew up in Devon Street, which used to be like under Newton Road. And Morningside, you know, it was Morningside. We used to always go to the takeaways there. But everything's developing so fast. I wanted to be able to, you know, get a place for, you know, almost like my 13-year-old self. Like for these next generations of kids coming through. Like, remember going into like shops you thought were cool or whatever, like 100%. On High Street, and, you know, that kind of thing. Or just a space for these kids to, you know, and that's not a development, where they can be like, oh, this is pretty choice. And when I told the bro that, he was like, well, I'm pretty much doing the similar thing but on steroids. And so it was him and the other bro that was their original idea out of a need for, they needed to hire creatives for their businesses, but where do you even look to hire creatives, you know? And so that's how it began. And then from that, you know, even the because we've got like Unitech on board and Massey University, and the research is showing that the industry, creative industry, isn't hiring these kids that are coming out of tertiary education. So they'll be like racking up $60,000 student loans and coming out of film school, and they can't find work. Like, they don't know how to, you know, crack into
still
the
don't
industry.
have a pathway.
There's no pathway. And then when they do speak to someone, they're like, well, you don't even have a driver's license, so wow, how am I gonna, you can't even be a runner.
Yeah,
you know, and then they go home and they go crying to their parents, and then their parents are like, I told you, you know, like, this is why creativity, you know, is almost a dirty word in our society, and it's like frowned upon unless, you know, unless a pandemic hits, then everyone wants to do arts and crafts and listen to music and stuff. But in general, they're just, it's really frowned upon. Just like, get a real job. What do you mean you're gonna like play music? Or what do you mean you're gonna be a gamer? Or what do you mean you're gonna do all of this stuff? So Launchpad is really about, you know, if we get these kids, well, look at like how Taika Waititi single-handedly like brought in like 70 million, you know. Rose Matafeo like won that award, and so a lot of our top talent exports are Māori and Pacific, you you know. And so when you look at what's actually happening there is that, you know, yes, that's our richest talent pool as far as like the creative industries go, but we're also the most underserved community, you know. And at the moment, these kids are more interested in TikTok and ram raids than they are in like schooling and education. That's the cold hard fact. And so, like, my understanding, you know, even at the government level and higher up, they're starting to recognize, you know, because this, you know, this schooling structure and system, you know, it's been failing, you know, our Māori and Pacific communities for, you know, as long as it's existed. And now with the TikTok and the ram raids and the crime, you know, they're starting to, you know, look and understand that maybe creativity is an outlet, you know, going to be something that's going to help save these kids. And that's why Launchpad will be like a solution to that. And so these kids, because, you know, you're not going to be able to save them all, but kids who are currently in a life of crime, Launchpad and will be able to save a percentage of those kids, and the percentage of the kids about to enter a life of crime and stuff like that, just because we are creative people. Like that's what we do, you know, and we're hands-on kind of people. And so that's why coming back to like the like application process and all these kind of things, that's just just a mad frustration for a lot of us. Like even myself, even being an entrepreneur, it's like I still struggle with replying to emails. You know, like I'm like, do I write their greeting or their signing? Like, you know, because I'm still not familiar enough to just like do it however I want. And that's why I'll call, like, and I'll just show up to places, because I'm like, I prefer talking face to face. If you saw my CV or whatever, you'll be like, I'm not hiring this dude. But if you met me, you would understand like differently. And so that's what I think Launchpad really is about, helping these kids to go into a pathway that they love, have the guidance and support of the community. And, you know, at the end of the day, kids in general learn better from people that they respect, but they absorb and really listen to the knowledge if it's people that they think are cool. You know, so
100%.
if we can, you know, as a community, and especially as like artists ourselves and whoever it might be, if we come together and, you know, if once me and my friends have hustled the money to get this facility built and everything that goes with it, then it's going to be our responsibility to go into these schools and communities and let these kids know that this is a safe place and it's all G, you know, and just come and do your thing. And whether you are successful or not, it's like a place where you can find like-minded people and create, you know.
You brought up so many gems in that. And I just think that the fact that there's examples of Pacific men that are looking towards the bigger picture, even that in itself, that sort of representation is so important. There's so much that you brought up, though, that I love, like the different types of growth, creative growth, personal growth, professional growth. Even having something like that to separate in your life is invaluable, really, because a lot of people don't know where to draw those lines. You also brought up the idea of buying back time, like that's so important as well. And there's all of these things that are kind of leading towards kind of zooming out a little bit. On the topic of youth today, the climate is so much different to when you grew up. And even before off camera, we were talking about how you've seen the mediums of music change from cassette to CD to MP3 to streaming. When you're observing your career and looking towards this next generation, what are some things that you think that young artists should take advantage of?
I'm not sure about like taking advantage of it, but I think definitely, just like I was saying, that personal growth. And if these young artists like have a better relationship with themselves, then it's gonna make everything that comes a lot easier. You know, it's like, it's really if you can just move in a way where you genuinely like find out like what you love, like genuinely like what makes you happy, you know, and that's where you should always be, I think, trying to aim to sit. And that's what I mean, like, even though I come into this new role or whatever that might look like, I'm always zooming out, because especially when there's talks of like, you know, this will not only change my future financially and everything else, but it can change the whole landscape of creative industries in this country. And so when you're dealing with big topics like that, like, I just zoom out, because I'm just trying to handle the whole thing lightly, because at the end of the day, like, I just want to go fishing, you know? Like, so find what makes you happy, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to get, especially in this business world where it's like, I think I've just observed that there's certain work ethics, and it's fine to be hustle and grind and do all this, but, you know, like, you're gonna die one day, you know, and there's all that research around the deathbed and people with regrets, and, you know, one of the top regrets is always like, I just worked my whole life and I didn't do anything that I really enjoyed, or they didn't follow their passion. And that's what I mean about, if you're these young kids, like, yes, it's good to aspire and, you know, have your goals and set where you want to be artistically and stuff, but it's also like, but just make sure that's genuinely what you want. Like, and that's what I mean about buying back my time, is like, I'm trying to secure the bags so that I can literally like sit under the tree and like enjoy the sun and just go swimming and do all these things that you guys all enjoy on summer holidays and summer breaks. And why do you have to work to get to a holiday, you know, that thing? But that's the way this world is and society is, and we won't even go into that. But it's like, I think it's about enjoying a certain quality of life, you know, and if these kids can understand what that quality of life looks like for them, then they're gonna operate at a, you know, certain frequency that's gonna change their reality. Like, it will literally it'll change the way that they move, which means the opportunities will, you know, be suited to that, I believe, you know. Just like, man, it's a crazy life we live, you know, and that's what me as a 36-year-old man now is like figuring out, like, the belief and the just remaining open to the possibilities that are out there, you know. Like, if a Ferrari pulls up or whatever, most people are like, oh man, that guy, I could never, you know. But if you think, well, I can afford that, like, my future self, that's not what I would buy, but I can afford that. It's like, because you keep the possibility of all these amazing things, you know, an option. But as soon as you say you can't, like, you cap your potential, and you cap, I believe, that frequency, you cap that opportunity. That, how's the universe going to bless you with that if you don't even think, you know, it's for you? I can't do that. So I think for emerging artists to, you know, bring their frequency up to, you know, because everyone is amazing, like, everyone is authentically great themselves, you know, and the sooner they tap into that and start moving with a confidence and a warmth and a love for themselves and those around them, then I believe that's probably going to help your artistic endeavors.
Man, yeah, I think that's the perfect place to kind of end it there, like, just in the idea of measuring your own success, trying to reach that higher frequency and doing it to challenge yourself and not for anybody else. It's a beautiful sentiment. Lucky Lance, thank you for joining us here. I feel zenned out, that's us.